You're about to enter into a new world of knowledge, curiosities, and high strangeness. This is a podcast of Straight Up Strange Productions.
Hello and welcome to Legendary Africa, the podcast where a disembodied voice speaks, shouts, swears, and whispers African myths and legends straight into your ear canal. When last we spoke, Squirt and I were mulling about your hippocampi, chuckling at your 4-year-old antics, and just generally enjoying some peace and quiet. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to us, a dark force was lurking in your memory. We find ourselves now strapped tightly to the mast of a pirate ship as it sails across high seas, the wind whipping salty water into our faces. Luckily, Squirt wisely hid himself in my pocket and is attempting to eavesdrop on the captain as we speak. I don't suppose you could, help out and tell your memory to stop fucking us over? No? Well, while Squirt works on figuring out the dastardly plan of Captain Memory Bank, I shall get on to today's story. Before we begin today's story, I have an exciting bit of news for those who haven't been following me on social media. I have started a new podcast. It's called The Asian Tapestry, and is all about myths, legends, and lore from Asia. I focus a lot on South and Western Asian lore, as my heritage lies in South Asia. But I will also be looking a bit at East Asian tales. The podcast is structured in a book format called The Book of Fables, with each episode comprising of a chapter. There are currently 3 chapters up, so go check those out. And remember to leave a review wherever you can. I release a new chapter every month, usually around the last week of the month, and you can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at AsianTapestry1 to stay updated. The podcast is on all popular podcasting platforms, including YouTube, and is a proud member of the Straight Up Strange network, just as Legendary Africa is. So, remember, that's the Asian Tapestry podcast, follow on social media at AsianTapestry1, and stay tuned for more chapters filled with heroic adventures, brave animals, and romantic tales. Open the Book of Fables. Trigger warning. This episode contains highly disturbing references to rape and violence, which some listeners may find traumatic or triggering. Please do not listen to this episode if you believe that these kind of references will upset you. Thank you. Highway Sheila. Most South Africans know of her. Some Durbanites claim to have met her. It's a tale some residents of Chatsworth, a large suburb in the South Durban basin with a bustling community, still murmur about to each other. Some dismiss the legend of Highway Sheila as nothing but a scare tactic. Others prefer to say nothing in respect for the spirit of the lost woman. Still others dare not speak of her out of fear, believing that every year Sheila reaps her quota of souls by causing fatal accidents on Higginson Highway. But who is Highway Sheila? And why does she kill so ruthlessly? There are many different versions of her tale, all involving a horrific death. Sheila is described by residents of Durban as a young, beautiful Indian woman with long hair whom many men fawned over, drunk on her beauty. Some claim that Sheila was killed in a horrific car accident on the very highway she now haunts. Consumed with revenge for the motorist who sent her to her death, Sheila walks up and down the highway, willing drivers to drive off the road to their doom. But some are not so easily convinced of this legend. A local resident, Digaraj Markaden, firmly believes that accidents on the highway are due to human error and bad drivers, and not from any supernatural influence. The most gruesome version, however, tells of Sheila traveling on the highway late one night when her car breaks down. There had been only a few cars that night, and none passed her for a while. Then Sheila saw approaching car lights, and getting out of her car, frantically flagged the car down in the hope that they would rescue her from the side of the road. But they did not come to offer help. Exiting their car, a group of men proceeded to gang rape and murder Sheila, their ears deaf to her pleas, as they allowed their cruelty to run rampant in the dead of night. Tossing Sheila to the side of the road, the men got back in their car and left her and her car on the dark highway. The vengeful spirit of Sheila now walks the highway, searching for the men who violated her. Some say that she walks dressed in a white flowing dress, waiting for someone to stop and offer her a ride home. One such instance is often related by Chatsworth residents. A young man was driving along the highway at night when he saw a beautiful young woman walking along the road. He offered to take her home, and she accepted, gracefully getting into the front passenger seat. The man attempted to make small talk, but she remained silent, speaking only to give him her address. Soon it began to get cold in the car, and she asked for the man's jacket, which he gave her. When they arrive at last at a house in Chatsworth, she gets out, turns to give the man his jacket, but he stops her with a kind smile, and insists that she keep it for him until the morning. He will return and pick it up from her. When the young man returns the next morning and rings the bell of the house, he is greeted by an older woman who asks who he is and what he wants. The young man explains what had happened and that he was here to pick up his jacket. But the older woman simply stares at him in shock, explaining in a trembling voice that the woman whom he describes is called Sheila and had been dead for some years now. She says that he must be mistaken, but the young man, bewildered and upset, is adamant that his description is correct. She directs him to a nearby cemetery, where, to his horror, he finds Sheila's gravestone. But his heart leaps into his throat when he spots his own jacket lying on the grave mound, neatly folded and ready for him. Some claim that those who do offer her a ride are soon killed in car accidents, but there is no concrete evidence behind this. A movie released in 2014 called The Curse of Highway Sheila follows Sheila's trail in an attempt to investigate the truth behind her legend, to no avail. Believe her story or don't, but if I were you, I would be wary of figures standing on the highway late at night. You never know when you may bump into a ghost. This legend originated in Chatsworth, Durban, South Africa, my home province. I've been to Chatsworth many times, but sadly, or perhaps luckily, I have never spotted Sheila. Chatsworth is a township originally created during apartheid for the purpose of segregating the Indian community from the white and black sectors. Racial segregation came into full force after the Group Areas Act was passed in June 1950. In general, the more affluent neighborhoods were exclusively white inhabited, while the Indian, black, and mixed-race communities were forced into less affluent townships, such as Phoenix and Chatsworth. Due to segregation, Chatsworth is still home to many Indians and houses Indian monuments, such as the Lord Hanuman statue at the Sri Vishnu Temple, which claims to be the tallest statue of Hanuman in Africa, standing at 13 meters tall. It was built to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the arrival of Indians into South Africa, who were brought to the country by the British as indentured laborers. Now, Chatsworth is home to a mixture of Indians and blacks, all coexisting in their individual cultures and religions, including Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity. Before we say goodbye, I have a lovely promo from Spellcast Podcast.
Hello, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Andreelle.
And we host Spellcast, a podcast dedicated to all things witchy, occult, and spiritual.
Spellcast seeks to bridge the gap between the mundane and the occult by sharing knowledge and welcoming all those who are curious about the worlds of magic, philosophy, art, and higher truth.
You can find us on most major platforms, and if you'd like to follow us on Facebook, you can find us at Spellcast Podcast. We have a Facebook page and also a private Facebook group for you to join. We are also on Instagram at WitchyPage, and you can find us on Twitter at SpellcastPod.
If you would like to join our online coven, you can always visit us at patreon.com/spellcast.
And we are now proud to be a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. If you'd like to see us and our friends that are part of that production company, you can visit us at straightupstrange.com. And remember, there's a little witch in all of us.
And spirits live in the mirror.
And now I must love and leave you. Legendary Africa is produced and edited by Hestia the Dog, written by Athena the Doggo, and hosted by me, the Shirapatha. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review wherever you can, and remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LegendaryPod1 and LegendaryPod. Check out the links to the podcast website and the Straight Up Strange website in the show notes. Also remember to check out my other podcast, The Asian Tapestry. Follow it on Twitter and Instagram at AsianTapestry1. Until next time, remember to mask up, sanitize before you fraternize, and above all, stay safe, stay sexy, and stay legendary. Bye!